All right, gentlemen. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2. That's right, we actually made it to the second episode. God is good. Episode 2 of Married Divorced Men podcast. Today we have 3 special brothers who are here to talk specifically about marriage and what it really looks like on a day-to-day basis. I have Brother Miles, Brother Kevin English, as well as Brother Kevin Pulley here, who all are currently married, have been married for different amounts of time, so they're able to give different perspectives on what that would look like. And they are also able to really kind of lift the veil of what marriage looks like on a day-to-day basis. So with that being said, I'll let these brothers introduce themselves to everybody. If you could just tell everybody how long you've been married, if you have any children, and how old you are, and then we'll get started. Excuse me.
Good evening. My name is Miles, again from Philly, 37 years old, been married for 12 years next month, and I have 3 children, 15,
All right.
11, and 5 going on 40.
Hey, but okay, Kevin English.
Yeah, hello, my name is Kevin English. I'm 35 years old, been married for 4 + 2 years, and I have 2 kids. Here we go, 1 right now. I apologize for that. And age 7 and 3.
And I'm Kevin Pulley. I'm 40 years old. My wife and I, we've been married for 13 years, and we got 5 kids, and 15, 12, 7, and twin boys is 4.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. And again, Matt Walker. I have now been married for 2.5 weeks, for the second time. So second time, second chance at love. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for that. Prior to that, married for 10 years. I have 2 beautiful daughters who are 11 and 6, and I have 2 stepsons who are 16 and 12. So it's a great dynamic, and I can't wait to talk about that as well. And so, brothers, we're going to just jump right into it. We're not even going to play around with it. The first question is, what was the most brutal and undiscussed truth about marriage that blindsided you? What blindsided you in marriage that you weren't expecting? Maybe no older man had spoken to you about it, but like what took you by surprise? Feel free to jump
I'll take on that real quick, Matt. I think for me was the different stages or the different transitions, like of marriage. I married I was 26 when I got married. My wife was 23, and she was like a year out of college. So you have that, transitional period as far as like, trying to get into, work, and you got juggling of of careers. And then we had our daughter. And when we had our daughter, like that was like another transitional period, like that we
in.
had to get accustomed to, get used to, and like really like navigate and like work through. That was like
How
challenging.
soon into the marriage did you have your daughter?
So 26, like 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Two years. So my daughter, she was probably like conceived like a year and like a couple months or whatever. And and then she was born when I was 28.
Okay.
And then even with that, there was talks as far as like, more career changes, so my wife had graduated from college, but she wanted to go into law school. And those who know, law school is a beast. So again, not having, that quality time or time that you're used to, it's now trying to manage between, like household responsibilities, raising a kid, and trying to, work and achieve, so a lot of that, was really tough, like strain on the marriage. And I just
Yeah.
wish that, you know, people talked about like things that could be a strain on the marriage and how to navigate those transitions or, yeah, just share a story as far as like how you can manage through those difficult seasons of marriage.
That was so real and honest. I appreciate that, bro. Thank you.
About
I think
Kev?
in my experience, I think like you'll hear a lot of people say, generic things about how it is to be married, right? So
Hmm.
friends, family on TV. I think what I never really heard anybody say is like how this kind of relationship that's so in depth, it's like holding up a mirror to yourself. Because in front of you, you're going to see through this relationship, you're going to see all the parts of you that are unhealed, things that could trigger you, things that can make you defensive. All of that comes into full display. And at the end of the day, when you see those things in front of you, you have to do the self work for yourself, you know what I mean, in order to heal those parts of you so that you're a better partner for your spouse. And I don't think no one really talked to me about how because you can have your own blind spots to yourself,
Right.
right? But when those
Right.
things arise and occur, like doing that self work to become a better man, even while being married, is instrumental. And I don't think anyone really talked to me about that or even, kind of touched in my experience. So that's something I learned on my own. And I like to say that just to give that perspective.
So you learned that on your own through your experiences that you had to just do better?
Yeah. So it's like sometimes, let's say, there's conflict in the marriage, right?
Yeah. Well,
Like, and like, I'll see like, oh, because at the end of the day, my wife and I, we're together. We in this thing for the long run, right?
right.
And like through certain conversations, I started to see parts of myself that I never saw before. In terms of like, whoa, like when this sort of thing does occur, I can be this way, right? And so it's like understanding that and understanding like there are things that occurred in my childhood that kind of make me the way that I am. And going back and revisiting those things and doing that self work just to come up and show up as a better man is something that, you know what I mean, has shown itself year over year. And at the end of the day, like, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. So it's a practice and it's always something that I'm trying to personally get better at.
Nice.
wow.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely commend
Uh,
you for that, Kevin, because I had to learn that going through therapy. So like I commend you for like
Amen.
being able to like learn that on your own, man.
Hmm.
Like because I was
You see
the
how
t
I asked the question, right? I was like, so you figured that out by yourself?
yeah,
Ah,
that's what I'm saying. Like when you
all
ask, I'm
right.
like, yo, like that's again, kudos to you, man. Because
Fact.
I was the first one to say, yo, like you gotta fix this. Like, I was pointing to my wife, like, yo, you need to do that, because this is causing me to feel some type of way. When really I'm like, okay, if that stuff wasn't there, there would be nothing for her to, like stir up, and again, like shout out to my therapist like who point out like that's my work to do, so that's good, Kev.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Miles, what about you?
y'all taking all the good stuff. Because now that whole thing about the mirror, like that's real. Because I tell people all the time, the best mirror that you'll ever have is being married to somebody. Um, but I would have to say, just the some of the challenges, man. I try to think of a good one because y'all covered, but I think really the evolution of the person that you are married to, um,
It's a good
because
one.
really like 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 Kev Pulley said, or was it Kev English? One of y'all, somebody said talked about the age in which you got married. I was 25 when I got married. My wife was 24. You are not the same person that you're going to be later on down the line. At 37, I'm not the same man. She's not the same woman. But being able to roll with the changes is where I think a lot of people tend to have issues. And that's the part where, like, you aren't warned about because this person will change. It could be for the positive, it could be the negative. You don't really know. But the fact of the matter is that one day you're going to wake up and you'll be looking at a completely different person. Now, I always tell people, like I said, how you roll with it because once you see it and you understand it, you have to decide on how you're going to flow with it, help figure it out, or get through it, whether it's good or bad, because that can change an entire dynamic. There have been things in a relationship where it's like, oh, you used to love these things. Now I don't love them so much no more. So now we got to find a new way to kind of navigate said situation, because yeah, I was okay with, when we were younger, just doing, like, okay, we just might sit on the couch and watch a movie. Now, this is just an example, but now this person wants to, they want to go out and do nature walks, right? You got to get used to that, because for real, if you're not a person who likes to walk in nature, the compromise comes in because the person is changing, but you want to be able to, keep them happy, keep yourself happy, obviously. But I think just having to prepare for that, because I had married people around me, but nobody ever talked about, yeah, this is going to happen. That person's going to change. They're going to want different things. Life is going to change for them. They may see other things on the outside that they don't necessarily want to compare you to, but they like, I like that. I want to start doing that in my relationship. Now you're like, I got to sit down and have a whole talk about some new stuff that you might want to do, which is fine. But I think when you don't know it, it's kind of like you can take offense to it or be upset about it, because you're not just realizing that this person is evolving, but you're also evolving too. You may not have gotten to that point where you realize what it is, but once you get there, you're going to be having the same conversation with them. And I think being able to stick together through those changes, no matter what they are, is a key part, but it's also something that nobody talked to me or warned me about. So when it started happening, I was like, what's this about?
No, that's a good point. That makes a lot of sense, actually, because I think we don't emphasize the conversations about the change that can happen through relationships. Something else I'm going to bring up a little later is the change that happens after you and your wife have kids, and the changes that happens with your wife and her body and her mental state and all of those things, right? So that is something that we're going to talk about later. But just in general, people's interests change, things, we have different experiences, so on and so forth. And just listening to the three of y'all, I'm thinking now, all of y'all met your wives in your 20s?
Yeah.
Kevin Pulley, did you get married in your 20s?
Yeah, I got married at 27, but we've been together since 2007. And like I said, we've been married 13 years. Our oldest child is 15. So first love, then comes marriage. We didn't really do that order. So
Right. Okay. Shout out to your daughter, who's a track star, by the way. Okay. Yeah, no, that's interesting. That in and of itself does kind of speak volumes, right? Because nowadays, I don't know if y'all have heard, the average age that people are getting married today is 33. So it's 32 for women, 33 for men, overall. And that's at least in our community. And then overall, it's 30, which is the oldest that it's ever been. And hearing that you all got married in your 20s, and I know you all had your own individual set of challenges, but I think it's interesting just to kind of see that. I didn't even realize that when I asked y'all to be on here. But moving on to the next thing, and share whatever you feel most comfortable with. But when the gloves come off, what's your go-to conflict resolution strategy? And what's the one thing that you still can't stop fighting about or disagreeing on? Or misunderstandings?
Oh, man, you trying to have people sitting on the couch, man.
Not at
sleeping
all.
on the couch.
But maybe somebody doesn't put the toilet seat down still. Maybe it's been 13 years and we still can't get the toilet seat down. How long is this thing on? I don't know.
Please, no toilet.
And if that's the case, that's fine. We can do something light. We can give it light.
Yeah, so go ahead, Miles.
I'll go ahead. No, I was just about to say the first part of the question again. I quote the last part. The first part.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, what's your go-to conflict resolution strategy?
Yeah, so like when it gets real like bad, and things kind of, it's one of those arguments. The time away is big for us, because a lot of the times when you're in the heat of the moment and the type of person that I can say like my wife is, like when she's really upset, she ain't gonna say nothing good. Like, this is Mina, by the way, the baby. She ain't gonna say nothing good. And, I had to learn, like, kind of to leave her be, because a lot of the time, the mind is just not in a place to really have that conversation, because we're so hyped up. We're so amped up. Like, I know I get loud. Like, that's my thing. I start talking real loud because I'm frustrated. But she shuts down when that happens. So she rather not be in a situation because I'm coming down on her now, right? So the thing for us is to kind of walk away. It may take sometimes. I think a lot of people don't talk about this. Like, I would love for it to be hours because I want to get it out the way. But sometimes it may take a couple days. It may take a night of sleep. And
Yeah.
typically, what we do once we both are in a better space is that we will literally sit down and say, "Let's talk about what happened. Why did you
Yeah.
feel the way you felt? What made you say what you said? And then what are we going to do?" Because if we continue on like this, obviously nothing is going to get finished. I mean, can you stand?
Right.
And when things don't get finished, then we're arguing about stuff over and over. And I don't really want to do that. And then the last part I have to say is that my oldest child is not my wife's child. So one of the toughest parts and one of the things that we've been through a lot
My
about.
sister have a different mom.
Yes.
And my sister have the
Ain't
same
nobody.
dad.
Nope. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you. That has been a thing for a long time because just different styles and different personalities and just thoughts on how things should go, and her living with us and et cetera, et cetera. So it's been so many things. I think that's one of the things that we've been on and on about over the years, but it's definitely gotten much better. My daughter's 15 now. She's in high school. You know what I mean? So
You have to be
she's much better, and we've kind of worked through a lot of those things. There's still a couple things here and there, but
Yeah.
we live this
That's
long,
natural.
it'll be all right.
to be.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. English.
Yeah, so I'll say, two things. I think, like my go-to is to shut down. I am a type of person, I like systems, and when my system is not working, or if the communication, if we're not having healthy communication and dialogue, like then it's just like, like I'll rather shut down so that way we can have a productive, conversation. The drawback to that is, my wife is an avoider, so for her to come back to the table, is also a struggle. But then I'm not also checking, to see if she's, like ready. So, that's a, like ongoing thing, or, like in a struggle, to be able to navigate. Um, Brother Miles, I wish I can get loud and everything like that. But that doesn't work, like for my dynamics and everything like that. So what I tend to do is I tend to try to, like mirror my wife, to say, hey, like, let me know how you want to have this conversation. Like if you want to, just be able to freely vent, go ahead, but just know what's going to come on the other side of this. I can take I can take what you're going to dish out, but I need you to be prepared, like what's going to happen on the other end. The other thing, I think it is shared responsibility, and like the little small things such as keeping up with the calendar, and other events. Like, I'm not sure how your guys' brains is set up, but the way how my brain is set up, I'm just worried about the big things. Like, do we have a roof over our head? Is food on the table? People got
Yeah.
clothes. It's cold. Everybody got clothes. We good. Like, I'm worried about the major stuff. I'm not worrying about what we doing this weekend, and checking it, or if I know something happened and putting it on the calendar. Like, I'm always on the go. So the small things, the shared responsibility, or the way how one might clean and everything like that, are the typical disagreements.
So do you feel like you as a husband, have you over the years gained additional patience that allows you to really like feel the conversations, like for the conflict resolution a little better? You know what I mean? Like, do you feel like you still shut down the way that you maybe did when you were in your 20s? Or do you feel like now you're able to have a little more patience towards things and maybe try to like calm yourself down and then mirror that to your wife, which calms her down? Or do you feel like it kind of always turns into the similar dynamic that you mentioned before?
Yeah, it's the latter because naturally, I have a lot of patience. What I don't
Okay.
have a lot of patience for is, like repeated cycles and everything like that.
Okay.
And
Oh,
then, yeah, so like when it's repeated cycles and everything like that, and again, like mental processors. So I'm assuming you guys are having these same type of conversations where it's those like, hey, look. Let's talk about this. Let's learn from it. Let's grow from this. So this way we don't have to deal with this again and we can move on,
hmm
and again, that's like one of my systems, like how can we, grow from this? What can we put in place to ensure that we don't keep, ending in this
hmm
cycle, you know,
That's what you're saying.
and
Hmm
when, strategies are not implemented and everything like that, that becomes a lack of frustration. Then patience is in loss and so forth and so on.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. And what about you, Kev?
For us, like when it comes to disagreements, obviously, like everyone's saying, communication is obviously key. But I think for me, what I try to focus on, like sometimes sometimes what you don't want to do is you don't want to say things in the wrong way. There's a way to say things, even if it's
Mhm.
tough feedback or even if it's some sort of criticism or there's something missing or something lacking. Sometimes it's not about like what you're saying, how you're saying it. And what I try is when I'm communicating, my go-to is I don't want it to be her versus me or me versus her. I want it to be us versus whatever issue is occurring. So that's the kind of how I frame it. And I feel like when you make it so that it's versus the problem, now we can be on the same team attacking whatever it is that we're going up against. And it's like I think a lot of things are about balance. And at the same time, if you are in a position where you are asking your wife something or she's asking you something, and it may be sort of like thing where you need to improve, you also
Mhm.
the other side of that where I'm getting built up or I'm building her up. You know what I'm saying? And when I say balance, because when we hear something about ourselves or you say something to someone about themselves, like that it can hurt. You know what I'm saying? But you got to show the other side of that, and as a multiplier too. Like, so if I'm going to say something in terms of how I want to feel, need you to be, I'm gonna tell you 10 things, 5 things, 6 things that you're doing great at the same time. And it's kind of like how I do this at work. You know what I mean? If I have to give somebody some feedback, I want to know I'm saying this stuff because I, we can get better here. You know, there's also
Mhm.
all these other great things that are also occurring. So I think like, you know, playing both sides of that ultimately will get you through some of these things that arise. And as far as like something that's reoccurring, I'm trying to put it on myself. Kind of like what Kev said is like sometimes I'll get consumed with some of the macro things, right? So some of the micro things that my wife may tell me, I can lose it. You know what I mean? I can forget or whatever. So she
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, I told you that we got XYZ on Friday," and I forgot. You know what I mean? But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm still going. I'll still be there, but I may not. It may not be top of mind for me. So I try to like, I try to hear those things for her and try to like take notes and write stuff down so I don't lose it. You know what I mean? Just to try to be better in that regard. But um, oh yeah,
Yeah, I have a shared calendar.
yeah.
Now that helps because I need alerts. I need things like blam right in front of me, like, oh yeah, this is coming up. And I'll give myself reminders and whatnot, like two days ahead of time. Tomorrow, whatever it takes,
Yeah.
because I know myself. You know what I mean? So I absolutely can understand that. Um, and I think for me nowadays, conflict resolution, I mean, it looks so different. With my ex, I think that the communication just wasn't there, right? We had two different styles. And I think now with my wife, my ability to speak to her, what's been interesting actually is we're able to communicate effectively and we can talk about things. And because I'm not actually used to that, it's it's been a breath of fresh air, but it's also been kind of off-putting because I've just been kind of like, damn, okay, we actually talked this out, agreed on something. We're going to move forward, and that's it. And there's no fallout. There's no, like, you know what I'm saying? And for me, that's been like kind of amazing, low-key. I ain't gonna lie. Like, it's been amazing. And I'm just trying to continue to like mirror the same patience that I have, right? Because I get frustrated too. We're all human and whatnot, but trying to like mirror a certain level of like patience and grace and understanding so that we can continue to meet each other in that space and maintain like a certain level of like love and respect for one another. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously we're both human, but I just feel like for me anyway, more recently, that's been very helpful. And I'm thankful for it. You know, just being able to have that level of effective communication, because it's something I worked on a lot, especially after my divorce. Like, I worked on my communication a lot. So I don't harbor things. I don't hold it in anymore. I don't keep it to myself and then wonder why you're not doing the things that I feel like I told you, even though I kept it all in here and haven't said anything to you. Like, and I feel like for me, that has probably been one of the biggest saving graces. But I also had to be honest with myself on what I was actually doing wrong. That was probably the hardest part. Being able to really sit with myself and be like, damn, I'm actually not the best communicator like I really thought I was.
Right.
Or I do shut down, because I used to shut down badly, you know, before. And so it's just, you know, different things that I had to work on. But I think you all really summed it up with marriage really shows you who you are for real. And the stuff that you may have even been running away from,
Mm-hmm.
you know, now the veil is ripped off and you really see like who you are and whatnot in a lot of ways. But now I look at it too in a manner where it is also showing me who I'm becoming. You know what I mean? And the better version of that. And I think that's where in the past I would focus on the former, and now I'm focused on the latter, on who I'm becoming, and just being like that best version, you know, of who I am. But with all of you all being married for so long, having family, how have y'all been able to keep, you know, after the honeymoon phase is over, as they say and whatnot, how have you been able to keep up with your love evolving, with your marriage evolving, and making sure that you still, you know, keep the spice alive, if you will? Do you go on trips, plan certain kind of dates, events? Do your wives plan anything? Pulley, if you wouldn't mind, we can start with you first this go around.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, for us, it's about making sure we have time with each other away from the children. You know what I mean? Because we got a lot of them. So that could be trips, that could be dates, that could be staycation where we just go downtown Baltimore and get a room. You know what I mean? So like doing things like that help keep things spicy. um, you know, and like, you know, experiencing new things together, like, you know, make sure there's some novelty there. But I think ultimately, kind of like what Miles touched on earlier, at the end of the day, like we're evolving and changing as people, right? And so as my wife, as I get older, as my wife gets older, like getting to know the new version of her as she, you know, finds new, you know, takes a new job, you know, get introduced to new things, has new hobbies, new activities, you know, so like seeing those things and getting interested in the things that she's interested in. I think that goes a long way in terms of, you know, just making sure things stay, you know what I mean? So I think that's how I would say that, you know, evolving with my with my wife has been instrumental in terms of just making sure that like things stay, you know, spicy,
Yeah,
for a better word.
I like that. Kev or Miles?
I can go.
Yeah.
Um, you know, just to add on to what you said, you know, Kev, as far as like, you know, dates and trip, just, any quality time, you know, like alone, to just, help with the connection. I think part of that before that even occurs is that, you know, like you have to be intentional, right? In order to, you know, like, uh, you know, keep the spark or to keep things going or to keep the connection strong, you know, you have to be intentional because as, you know, time go on, you know, people can get lax. And, like when you get lax, then that's when problems, start to occur, so, I would say with me personally, like I always try to evaluate, areas or, yeah, areas that I might be lacking in, and just question myself like, hey, what am I not doing now that I probably used to do more of? Am I still looking at my wife the same way when I first like looked at her? Am I still complimenting her? I try to be intentional and put my mindset as if, we first met. So with me, being
Mm-hmm.
intentional, is definitely key.
Love that.
Yeah,
Let's stay intentional.
that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
That I think we always tell people, because people have asked us this, mainly when the pandemic happened for whatever reason, and we were in the house with each other, and you with each other all day long. Um, our response simply was like, we like each other. We're actually friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, being able to like have a person that you can actually talk to every day, relate to, have great conversation. It's been, like I said, it's been, 12 years, and we can still find something or drum up something to talk about. You know what I mean? Have fun with each other, go on dates. I remember when we got, to the year of our 10 year, like we was like, let's go on a 10-year date every month. And every month we did something like very like cater to whatever like we wanted to do, in a sense of like it wasn't a normal date for us. Like normal would just be going out to eat, right? So we would do like a concert, or we went to like a Museum of Illusions type thing, or we went and
Mm-hmm.
got matching tattoos, so it was always something new, but kind of adventurous, just to kind of regain that spark. And then when we got to, I think we went to the Bahamas that year. Um, so it's just a matter of like continuing to like intentionally be a part of each other's lives day in and day out. No matter how monotonous it gets, make time for each other. No matter how crazy it gets with the kids and how much work might get in the way, et cetera, et cetera. Always leave time, always leave space for one another, so that you have that time to love on each other. And another thing I'll say real quick is that we both decided one time, like, let's do check-ins. So like every 6 months or so, we'll just be like, how you feeling? What's going on? Anything I can do better? This is what I would like you to do. And you would discover that when you do those things, you kind of, that evolution that we talked about earlier, that's kind of at the points you start to discover those things, because it's like, hey, yeah, you're doing great, but I want you to, like, when we sit on the couch, I want to cuddle more. I'm like, well, you didn't like to cuddle like, a year ago. So where did this come from, right? It is funny because it's like, I don't know, but I just want those things. And like, I know people kind of think it's funny, and like the love language thing, that stuff really helps because it does change. It fluctuates. I did the test not too long ago, totally changed from what it used to be. So staying on point with each other, to me, it's kind of like being at work, and you know how you have a job where you got to stay certified. So
Yeah.
you got to continually take those tests every year or learn new things every year. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. You know what I mean? You're just figuring out your person all the time, which is it's fun. Sometimes it can be annoying, but most of the time it's fun because it's like, oh, a new challenge, and let me see if I
Mm-hmm.
can do this, and let me work on doing that. Like I'm not a listen. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I grew up some trauma. I don't know. Maybe I need to talk to my therapist too. I'm not really good at doing the compliment thing, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
that's a like no funny stuff, and I don't want nobody to feel a way about it. It's just me. Like it'd be hard to say the stuff sometimes, but like when my
Yeah.
wife gets dressed up, I just smile. Like I be cheesing. I'm like, damn, she look good. I say it in my head, but it doesn't come in my mouth. So like I gotta work on like doing more of that. But she also understands like there's a way that I do it too. But either way, we're learning and we're staying in the game with each other by doing that, and we're evolving together.
Mm-hmm.
Like the brother said, we just pushing together, but you just learning different ways and new ways of doing these things so that you can stay in the game.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried setting a reminder? Like try setting a reminder, even if it's weekly or something. Say something nice about how baby girl looks or something.
I've never done that. So listen, my wife taught me how to use the calendar, first of all, because not that she taught me, but like I never use calendars, right? I just
Mm-hmm.
remember. I'm like, all right, yeah, I gotta do this today or somebody. But because life has become so busy, right?
Right.
She was like, yo, is it in the calendar? Whenever I talk about anything, so like maybe this, dang, oh, she ain't here.
Yeah.
I might have to
And
use
just
it.
make it a recurring thing, and it'll just pop up on your phone
Right.
every week.
Like, hey, you baddie. I
You know what I'm
got you.
saying?
Appreciate that,
Whatever
bro.
it takes.
You the
Yeah.
man.
Absolutely, brother.
I'm gonna try
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, please do. And if you can't think of things to say, ask AI to help. I'm just keeping it real. If you
Can,
can't think of anything, if you
Chat
really having a
GPT.
hard time, ask AI for some
can I
things
add
that you
something?
can say. It'll get the juices flowing, if nothing else. I'm just
Right.
saying. Go ahead, Kev. Yeah.
Yeah. So Miles sparked a thought. Because this happened recently to me. Like sometimes seeing my wife outside of the places where I normally see her, it's like
Mhm.
because we went to a work event and
Yeah.
like I saw how she was interacting with her coworkers
Yeah.
and that report to her and all that kind of thing. And I was like, whoa, like it's like I don't know this version of you all that well, you know. I was like, this is kind of hot, you know what I mean? So, so like,
That's crazy because that literally happened to me yesterday. I was watching my wife talk to like she has an intern, and she was talking to her intern about like her demeanor, her dynamic, and how she is, in her classes and stuff. And I was just looking like, yo, listen to you. I was like, okay, sound like a teacher. Yo, it happened yesterday, and it was great though because it was like this is dope. And I ain't even say it to her yet, but I said I know you got some of that stuff for me because she was sounding like me. But we'll talk about that later.
So, Kev, what did she say when you said that to her about seeing her in that environment?
she was like, I mean, she was surprised. She was surprised
Yeah.
because to her, like, dude, this is how I always
Mhm.
what I do. You know what I mean? But it's like I don't see that, so it's like it's different for me. You know what I mean, so
Mhm.
she was flattered, of course, but but still in my head, I was like, wow, like just like Miles said, like, wow, like this kind of crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like we've been together for so long, and I don't really see this side of you all that often. I don't work here, you know what I mean? And I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's real. And I appreciate all of y'all. One thing I got from all of y'all's entries a second ago was being intentional is really the key when doing any of these things in marriage. You have to have that intention. So when people say that marriage gets boring and all of these other things, then we really can say more than likely people are not putting the effort that they need to put in to keep it going. And not just to keep it spicy in terms of like that kind of thing, but just to mix it up, keep both parties interested, keep both parties just engaged in a certain way. You have to really be intentional with that and put in that effort. And so when you all are doing that, how do you then also make sure that you're able to maintain your own individuality and like who you are and not get, I guess, lost in the marriage, if you will? Because in the last episode that I had, we had brothers talking about how you can lose your identity, right? When you have kids, you just become the husband, you just become a dad, you become, the old school tropes about dads. You the bag carrier. You know what I'm saying? You carrying the car seat, the other bag, you got the stroller, and you kind of in the background versus, really being able to maintain whatever new hobbies or things. And I know you all do your own individual things, but how have you all been able to maintain that?
With
Mhm.
me, I find, doing things on my own has always been a, great escape for me. Like when it comes to dealing like,
Yeah.
with the pressure or responsibility. I'm a firm believer, putting your mask on first. I tell my clients that, put your mask on first, and, I believe in, like pouring or filling my cup up, so that way I can pour into, like my family. So, I'm just grateful for the outlets that I have, like one of my outlets is being able to, like play ball. I'm grateful that I can still run up and down the courts and everything like that. Knees be hurting, back be hurting, but, we still get it in. And I'm grateful for just having like different outlets.